ಮ್ಯಾಮ್ ಯಾಕೆ 185 ಮ್ಯಾಚ್ ಆಗ್ತಿಲ್ಲ ಅಂತ ಕೇಳ್ತಾರೆ. ಸೊ ಬೇಸರ ತರ ಕೆಲಸಕ್ಕೆ ಹೋಗ್ತಾರಲ್ಲ, ಇವರೆಲ್ಲ ನಮ್ಗೆ ಪೂಜಾ overall general it doesn't match. But how many startups we have supported on that? 170. 170.
Yeah, hi.
Yes,
Hi,
yes.
hello. Am I audible?
Yeah, you are.
Yeah.
So we'll start by 3 o'clock as usual, and we will also put it in, or we'll do it in the live stream as well. Yeah.
Sure, no problem. I think we have a time till 10 minutes, no problem.
Yeah.
around that and get.
Yes, we are. We'll start.
Yeah,
He will talk here.
so Dr. Aditya, I mean, same we have three participants, so I mean, participants have joined some other channel.
One, they'll join here on a random basis, and then we will also, since we are doing it in LinkedIn also, it becomes easier for them to join through LinkedIn, even if they're not here registered.
Okay.
So,
Fine, so just one, let me just.
you want to project your screen, right?
Yes, so I think, yes, you have to give me
Just
the,
enable that. Yeah, now I think you can do it. Just try once.
yeah, I'll try.
Yeah, I think you can go back and then probably again stop the sharing, and then again probably, yeah, it's visible. So before we start, we'll just
Okay, so my slide is visible, right?
yes, yes.
Okay, perfect.
Just stop the sharing as of now,
Okay,
so that when we are going live, the screen will come first rather than our faces. So yeah, okay, we'll start.
fine, so thank
So,
you. Yeah.
ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. I welcome you all to the second workshop, which we are organizing on part of Derby's Health Hub initiatives. Having said that, though the Health Hub platform is more of what we had generally doing with the knowledge sharing, where we are trying to close the gaps between the medical research to foster innovations. This workshop is more about understanding the regulatory clearance and helping startups figure out clinical regulatory pathway, supporting them and identifying the right way to understand the regulatory clearance. Today, we have Mr. Sudhir Patel, founder and director of Quinary Clinical Research Private Limited. And I think we don't have any other better person to speak about regulations, because he is an active member of South Chapter of Indian Society of Clinical Research, ISCR, and holds the post of Secretary at Human Ethics Committee Association, HECA, an initiative to set up a common platform for all ethical committees in India to learn, interact, and communicate. Please note that this is the second part of the workshop, as we had recently conducted the part one, where we covered the effective ways of writing a research on regulatory proposals and protocols. And today we'll be seeing about the regulatory clearance. So if you have any questions, we would encourage you to drop it to the chat boxes or on the comment section. For now, it's over to you, Mr. Sudhir.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Aditya. So team, thanks for, once again, here we are with the second session, and which is related to, and all, the researchers, the budding researchers, also the startups, those who are working in the health technology startups. So this last session, we discussed about the medical device and their rules. Now here, the more we are going, we are deep down to the regulatory requirements. And today's session will help you, like what are your regulatory pathways? Because when we are into the research, our more focus as a researcher will be your product, how your product will be effective, efficient, and the technically strong. But same time, at the end objective is to take your product to the market. And for taking product to the market, the important pathway is a regulatory pathway. So today, here in this, my 1 hour session, will brief you about the basic understanding about the regulatory pathways in the country. I may not answer all your questions in this presentation, but certainly this is a start where we can try to get more information, whatever the basic information, and then in subsequent sessions we will add the more and more detail about that and very specific detail. So thank you once again, and with this let me share my presentation. Okay, fine. So okay, perfect, thank you. The topic of today's discussion is navigating Indian regulatory clearance for medtech health tech companies. So this is a very important, like regulatory we have a regulatory for the drug trials, regulatory for the academic research, biomedical research. But today what we are going to specifically talk about the medtech companies, the startups, those who are into the health related technology, where I'm sure you all are mainly into that. In my presentation, this is the sequence which we are going to discuss. We can touch base on the introduction, the background, why we are discussing this, who all are the key players, device classification. I'm sure you must have heard many times. Today we will just touch base on the device classification, conformity assessment in India. So in India, what are the procedures related to the conformity assessment, application process? What will be the application? How you will submit that application for seeking the permission from the regulators? Clinical investigation, clinical performance evaluation, and not in detail, but just a flow of how that FDA and EU, European market, has their own approval process. So first point is why this is important. This regulatory, why are we discussing about the regulatory clearance and what is the importance of it? So regulatory clearance is a pathway. Already we mentioned that it is a pivotal pathway to bring your medical device to the market, because end objective is the use of the medical device by the large population. And to take your device to the large population, you have to pass through the regulatory pathway. So that is the importance, and that is why we are discussing this. Now, first is the market access. Do you all agree that market access? So penetration into the market, regulatory clearance is the primary ticket. Patient safety, because we as a researcher, we have to follow the ethical practices. Whether we do the clinical research of the drug studies or any other research, but the ethical aspects are more important, because the patient safety is a primary motto for researchers. So patient safety, to ensure the patient safety, you have to pass through the regulatory clearance. Legal compliance, compliance with the Indian regulations, compliance with the medical device rule. So we have a regulatory rules that is called Medical Device Rule 2070. And Medical Device Rule 2070 defines the all procedures that how that clinical testing to be performed, what are the procedures to seek the marketing approval, manufacturing approval. So the legal compliance, to ensure the legal compliance, you have to undergo the regulatory clearance. And last but not least, the reputation. Currently, we are working with many startup companies, especially in this segment, the health tech segment. So they are, as per the rule, clinical testing is not required, but they ask us to support them in clinical testing. Then when we ask why you need to do this, then the answer is coming for a credibility of the device, credibility of the data. Because when the device will take this device to the market, we have to show them the evidences that the device has already proven on certain sample size, on certain geography. It has been proven, and we have a data to show them. So the reputation. So for this 4 important area, and because of that, this is very relevant, and this is exactly why we are seeking the regulatory permissions. And that is why we are here today to discuss about the regulatory. Now, when we understood that why are we here and why the regulatory discussion is required. Now, the second question is, who all are the key players in this regulatory area? So the first important key player is CDSCO, Central Drug Standard Control Organization. Now you will be having a question. This is the drugs standard organization, Central Drug Standard Control Organization. Why we are maybe into the software, medical device, health tech, why it is relevance to us. But friends, we have only one regulatory body, and that is CDSCO body. And they are the regulators. They regulate the drug trials, they regulate the medical device related research. So they are our first key players that is based in Delhi. Now, what does CDSCO? Reviews application for medical device clearance. So you submit application to them. They are experts, does the scrutiny of your application. If required, they will appoint the subject expert committee, that is called SEC. And that subject expert committee will evaluate, scrutinize your application. And then they will give their opinion, and then maybe they will give their clearance to that. Clearance for conducting the testing, clearance for taking your product to the market, clearance for manufacturing your products. So they do conduct the inspection to ensure compliance. Their experts will walk into the facility, manufacturing facility, and they will evaluate, and then they will issue the license for that. They manage the post-market surveillance. You must have heard about that post-market surveillance. It is very common in, for all kind of studies. Even though you get the marketing approval, manufacturing approval, then you need to do the post-marketing surveillance. Means for the larger population, to ensure safety of the larger population. Maybe for the clinical testing, you might do the study for lower sample size. But once that your device is approved, it is marketed, there is a proposal and recommendation from the regulator that you have to prove the post-marketing surveillance. So that is also responsibility of the CDSCO. Now, we have one more, a key player is the notified bodies. Now, what is notified bodies? So notified bodies is again under the CDSU. So CDSU has a limitation. CDSU doesn't have that sufficient experts and manpower to scrutinize and to assess the requirement for all applicants. So they keep the notified bodies with them. Now, notified bodies is nothing but their preferred vendors for doing such kind of the conformity assessment on behalf of CDSU and submit the report to this CDSU. So that notified bodies is doing the conformity assessments, verify the compliance and the technical strength of your plant, your product, assist manufacturers in meeting regulatory requirements. If you are lacking some of the regulatory requirements, if you are not in compliance to the regulatory requirement, then the notified bodies will support you and they will assist you to bring you under the regulatory compliance and facilitate market access. So these notified bodies are part of the CDSU. And to be a notified bodies is anybody cannot be a notified bodies, but they should register on the CDSU platform and get the clearance first to be a notified bodies as per Rule 13 of Medical Device, Rule 2017. Under Rule 13, first such kind of bodies have to register and get the approval to be a notified bodies. And once they have, then you have the rights to choose that notified bodies and get your conformity assessment done. So these are the two important players in the regulatory pathway. Coming to the third point is the device classification. I think this is the important question. Comes you as a researcher, you as a designer of your product, my device falls under which classification? Because everything depends on the classification. Everything, your device is based on a classification, your rest of the process follow. So for India, when you have to market your device into the country in India, then you have to follow this classification. Now, what are the classifications with us? Classification A, B, C, and D. So every device has to be classified with this category. Now, class A is low risk category. Low risk, which is just one or two example, is bandages, thermometer, the low risk. Class B, moderate risk. Low moderate risk, blood pressure device, nebulization device. Class C, moderate high risk device. Moderate high risk device, cardiac stents, implants. And class D, high risk device, pacemakers, heart valves, and all these things. So these are the device classification. First, you have to classify which device, your device falls under the which category, and then according to that, we need to see that what will be the subsequent procedures for that. So take example, if your device falls under class A, low risk device, then as per the regulation, clinical testing is not mandatory. Similarly, for other class B and C, D, B, C, D, all that regulatory, according to the regulatory requirement, clinical testing is mandatory. So this is a decisive step when you decide your device classification. Coming to the conformity assessment in India. So friends, there are 3 options which you can choose to do your conformity assessment in India. One is a voluntary registration. So you as a researcher, you as a manufacturer, you as a product owner can do the voluntary registration on medical device website and choose to go for, alone. You as a stand alone, you can, if you are aware of all rules and regulation processes, you can go from your end, and that is called the voluntary registration. The second option is notified bodies. Already we discussed that we have a notified bodies which is available. You can choose any notified bodies to support you in this whole process. And third, there are third-party organizations. So currently, Quinary Clinical Research is a third-party organization where you can reach out to such organization, those who are experienced in such kind of a work, and then they can support you in your whole process, end-to-end management from application submission till the clearance of it. So there are 3 routes which you can choose as a researcher. Now here, I just want to, show you like how our website looks for your information. So friends, this on your screen, this is the medical device website. This website can guide you. You have to register your website on this. You have to register your product, your application on this website. It has a multiple option. You can see it called as an online system for medical devices, grant permission, help desk. Then there are other options which is available, medical device and diagnostic, online solution for application submission and processing. You can track your medical devices related application, your software applications. Here you can see the notified body. You can get the list of the notified bodies as well. And you can, for a manufacturing license, Class C device, that all processes are available on this. So this is the, sorry, I have, okay. So this is the website which can guide you about the medical device application process. Now, next point is application process. What is the application process? How to start with? The first step is the preparation. Gather all necessary documentation, including technical data, quality management system, information. You gather all this information first, and then go for the next is selecting the conformity assessment route. Which route you want to choose, whether the voluntary voluntary registration, or you want to go for the third-party organization. You decide and then opt for it. Third is submission of application. Complete the appropriate application form. Now, appropriate application form. Why appropriate application form? Because I will show you in my subsequent presentation that there are multiple forms are available. So based on your requirement, whether you want to go for the application for clinical investigation, there will be a separate form. If you want to go for application to clinical performance evaluation, there is a separate form. Testing license, import license, there will be a separate form. For manufacturing and marketing approval, there is a separate form. So there are various forms are available. So based on your requirement, you have to complete that form. And that forms can be submitted on CDSCO website. Next is the review and evaluation. So after once you submit, then what? Then CDSCO will do the scrutiny of your application, completeness, correctness, compliance. They will review, and then the review may take several weeks or months depending on the complexity of the device. So your review will happen, and that is what I was mentioning, that they may appoint, depends on the complexity of your device and of your application. They choose the subject expert committee, and subject expert committee can discuss. If it is a simple device and less complex, then the DCGI may take the decision from their end also. So there will be a review and evaluation will happen, and it takes the months. There is a few months minimum, around 2 months to 3 months, 60 days to 90 days it takes for the review and evaluation by the regulatory authority. Next is a testing and assessment. Testing and assessment may be conducted by the manufacturer as per the conformity. So testing, once you have a clearance, then next process is a clinical testing and assessment. Testing and assessment may be conducted by the manufacturer as per the protocol, as per the plan which has been defined, and testing can vary in duration. Now it depends in which environment you are doing the testing. Is it one center, geographically multiple center, or you have a sample size varies from 10 to 100, depends on your requirement, depends on the statistical terminology. Your protocol will be there, and according to the protocol, testing and assessment will be there. Then audit and inspection. So whatever the work is done, that work has to be audited by the either your department, your quality assurance team, or maybe the external vendor, because quality is also one of the GCP principle. Quality aspects has to be taken care, and it is a responsibility of the sponsor. Now here, who is a sponsor? You as a researcher, you are the sponsor. So it is your responsibility to ensure the audit and inspection. So CDSCO or notified bodies may conduct on-site audits and inspections of the manufacturing facility if required. So depends. Either the notified bodies can come and assess and verify your plans and the procedures and give a clearance and give a reports to them. And the final is a clearance decision. CDSCO will issue a clearance certificate if the application meets all regulatory requirements. If deficiencies are identified, applicants may ask to provide additional information. So this is the process. I think it is very important for you to understand. So I just would like to do the quick recap that first you have to prepare yourself. Then decide how you would like to go ahead, voluntary, third party, or notified bodies. Submission of the application, scrutiny of the application. Once post that, testing and assessment you will do. And once you do the testing and assessment, audit and inspection will carried out by the either the CGI body, the CDSCO body, or the notified bodies. And the final is a clearance decision. Clearance decision for issue this certificate. So this is the application process will be followed. Now, these are the forms which I was talking about. There are various forms, no need to remember. The list of forms are very well listed in Medical Device Rule 2017, but it is just few forms, if I can name it. MD1. All forms, it starts with MD. Medical device 1, medical device 2, like that. This is the naming convention used by the medical device regulatory body for naming their all medical device related forms. Application for grant of certificate of registration of a notified body, MD1. So like if I want to apply and be a notified body, then there is a MD1. Certificate of registration. Once suppose if I get the notified body approval, then the form will be it will be issued in the MD2. Similarly, the application for grant of license to manufacture and sale and distribution of Class A or Class B device, and so on. So there are multiple forms. I do not want to, quote all these forms, but this forms is for the reference only. You can have you can get the reference from the Medical Device Rule 2017. Now, friends, want to touch base on there are certain clinical testing requirement. Now, clinical testing, we have talked about, like, what are the regulatory pathways and how you can how you can go and seek that regulatory clearance. We discussed on that. We discussed about the classification of device. Now, when I was talking about the classification of device, so from that, if you choose, let's take example, your device falls under the class B, C, and D. Then, based on the device type, whether the device is invasive or non-invasive, based on the use of the device, we need to decide whether we should go for the clinical investigation related procedures or the clinical performance evaluation. Now, what is the difference between these two? Clinical investigation, for which kind of device we should go for the clinical investigation, and for which kind of device we should go for the clinical performance evaluation. One simple rule, that any device which comes in the contact of your body part, then for such kind of device, you have to do the clinical investigation, whether the intact body part or damaged or injured part. But if the device or any device part comes in contact with the body part, then you have to go for the clinical investigation. But if the other side, that if the device part is not in contact with the body or body part, then you have to go for the clinical performance evaluation. Take example that, if we just take the blood specimen, and after taking blood specimen, it will be, the device performance will be checked. Take the best example is a HBGM device, home blood glucose monitoring device, where the prick of blood will be taken, but that will be tested. The device will be tested away from your body. So the device doesn't come in contact with body part, but your blood drop you will take and then put on the strip, and the performance will be checked. For that, clinical performance evaluation. So very clear that clinical investigation evaluation, in which all the cases we have to do, and clinical performance evaluation. Let's talk about the clinical investigation first. So clinical investigation is nothing but the systematic study of investigational medical device in or on human participants to assess safety, performance, and effectiveness. So there are three objectives: safety, performance of the device, or effectiveness. So this can be assessed by the systematic study of your device, and that is called clinical investigation. Now, conduct of clinical investigation. As per the rules, in accordance with the permission granted by, first of all, that you need to obtain the regulatory permission. If you want to do this clinical investigation evaluation, Then, as we discussed, you need to apply to the regulatory and you need to obtain the NOC for doing this clinical testing. That is one. An application for grant of permission to conduct investigation, you need to complete that MD22 form by a sponsor. Now, when we say sponsor, then is a researcher shall be accompanied with information specified in 7th schedule. So friends, we have not detailed all that information here because we do not want to duplicate that information and create any kind of a discrepancy. But we recommend that there is a medical device rule, and in that you can refer that 7th schedule, which will guide you that what all the information to be provided along with medical device 22 form. And one point which I have not mentioned here is permission from the ethics committee. So ethical clearance, ethics committee, we will talk more about the ethics committee in our subsequent session with all of you. But when you want to go for the clinical investigation evaluation, you need to go for the ethics committee clearance also along with the regulatory clearance. And type of investigation. Now, we have obtained the regulatory clearance, we understood and we decided we have to go for the clinical investigation evaluation. We have obtained the ethical clearance as well. After that, what? The type of investigation. What type of investigation we want to do, whether we want to do a pilot study or pivotal study. So now, friends, again, the question, what is a pilot study and what is a pivotal study? Pilot study, by name itself, it indicates that pilot, the first study. And first study is a pilot which will be conducted in the minimal size of the participants to obtain only the information about your device, and that will be a confirmatory study. Pilot study is a confirmatory study, whether you can go for the pivotal or not. So based on the pilot study data, most of the researchers, what they do, they improvise their device. And once their device is ready, they can go for the pivotal study. So it is a confirmatory study and confirmatory evaluation with the low number of population, sample size. Whereas pivotal study is a study which can be used for the obtaining the marketing license, manufacturing license, the commercial purpose that this data can be used. And pivotal, on the basis of data emerging from the pilot study, this study can be designed. So no permission for conduct of academic clinical study on licensed medical devices. So friend, when I'm talking about whatever that study which we need to obtain the license from the regulation, that is primarily for the device for which you want to market. But let's say if you just want to do an academic study, just for your thesis perspective or maybe your career perspective, academic purpose, that all studies falls under the academic study. And academic study does not require any regulatory clearance. You just have to obtain the ethics committee clearance and you can go ahead for that. So this is all about the clinical investigation. Now, what are the prerequisites for clinical investigation? Device classification, as we already mentioned. So you have to be sure about which type of device it is. Second is ethics committee clearance. Just now we discussed, you should have an ethics committee clearance. Third important is clinical trial protocol. You should have scientifically sound protocol design. Fourth, informed consent. You all know that informed consent is a very important document, because before we do any kind of studies on any volunteers, healthy or patient, we need to obtain the informed consent. It is the ethical aspects of respect of person. under the ethical aspect, the respect of person, you should provide all information to the participants. Qualified investigators, you need to have the qualified investigator to conduct the study. Now, who can be the qualified investigator? Anyone, any researcher can also, who knows about the product, who knows the scientific and technical aspects of the product, they can be an investigator. But along with you, if there is a safety aspects are involved, then it is recommended that medically qualified person also join with you as a sub-investigator. And data management plan, so establish a robust data management plan, because once you collect the data, then what will be the next process? So these are the prerequisites before doing the studies. Now, coming to the next question and next point is a clinical performance evaluation. So already we discussed that in which all the scenarios that clinical performance evaluations will be done. So clinical performance evaluation will be done where that the study will be that the device or the device part does not come in contact with body part. And that is just only for the performance check of that particular device. So it is a systematic performance study. See, that clinical investigation is a systematic investigational study on medical device, but here this is a systematic performance study of a new in vitro diagnostic medical device. So it is an in vitro, not in vivo, in vitro, out of body part, that medical device on a specimen collected from human participants. Very clear? The blood sample or tissue sample collected from the human participants, and it will be assessed externally. It will assess the performance of the device externally. So this conduct of performance evaluation is, again, it should be in accordance with the rules and regulations. Here also we need to get the permission from the Central Licensing Authority. Now, what is the Central Licensing Authority? Same, CDSCO. So we need to have the permission from them. And what is the procedures involved to take the permission? It is mentioned in that the already what we discussed. You have to make the application, submit the application, let them do the scrutiny, and they will come up with their opinion. So that you have to do on the medical device website. An application or grant of permission, MD24. So once that regulatory are satisfied with our device, then the MD24, through MD24, they will issue the license. And it will be, again, you have to, your applications permissions will be done by MD24. Again, that you have to submit the documents and relevant information which is specified in 7th schedule of Medical Device Rule 2017. So what are the prerequisites for doing the clinical performance evaluation? So prerequisites for doing the CPE, device type and risk. So here, determine the device type and risk classification to ascertain the extent of clinical performance evaluation required. So now here, we need to determine, I think, same the classification, class A, B, C, D. So you have to decide that which class and category your device falls. The second is a literature review. Conduct a comprehensive literature review to gather existing clinical data and identify gaps. So before you do this performance evaluation, you should have a comprehensive review of the data available, clinical, preclinical, any kind of a data which is available. Device, there is a device, there is a predicate device available. Most of the device which is currently, the design, there is a predicate device available either in the country or out of country. we need to read or we need to understand the literature about the predicate device also. And then based on that comprehensive review, that we can gather the data and then decide the next step. Performance criteria. Define the performance criteria such as safety, efficacy, and intended use based on the regulatory guidelines. So now what will be the performance criteria? Because you have to do the performance, you need to define that performance criteria in the protocol. That what are the performance criteria which you want to evaluate? That safety, you would like to review the safety part of the device, or efficacy, intended use based on the regulatory guidelines. Clinical data plan. So develop a plan for collecting, analyzing, and documenting clinical data, including endpoints and statistical methods. So clinical data plan also has to be the design and prepared before you go for the performance evaluation, because the data whichever will be collected, how it will be processed, analyzed, with which procedures it will be analyzed, and after that analyzed data, how it will be published or taken to the market. And the regulatory compliance. Ensure alignment with Indian regulatory. So whatever that research will be conducted, whether it is a performance evaluation or investigation evaluation, regulatory compliances must. You need to ensure that you are compliant to the applicable regulatory requirements. So friend, these are the the few informations which is related to the medical device and their the testing part. Now my last two slides will just focus. I'm not going to give any kind of detailed information, and I do not consider myself as a the even expert into this also. So I will just would like to display that there are FDA related medical device and approval processes. So here in this particular flow chart, you can see this. There is a first is a category of the classification. So in US FDA, because many devices, when you design and you do the research, I have seen that your goal is to market in the US market as well. Your goal is to market in the European country as well. So whenever we go for marketing or for other testings requirement, then we have to follow their rules and regulation. So this is just a quick glance that what is procedures, approval procedures in FDA. So first is like how we have a class A, B, C, D. Here it is a class 1, 2, 3. And based on that, this the complete procedures will be followed. You have to submit your plans to the for the review. You have to then once the same like us, there will be a scrutiny by the FDA regulators, and then if the FDA's inspections, they like how CDSU does the inspection, FDA also does the inspection from their end, and once they are approved and aligned, then they will issue that the approval for that. So this is the FDA medical device, and similarly here we have a CE. You must have heard quite oftenly that CE marking, and CE marking is required only when you want to market your medical device to the European market. Their European market, they have the classification again in a different way. So they have a class 1, 2, 2A, 2B, and class 3. So these are the different classification country-wise. Again, they have a submission of the quality management system, submission of plan, and at the end that they will issue your QMS and technical file for design dossier must be audited by the notified body, and a CE certificate for your device will be issued. So after scrutiny, they will issue the CE certificate. So these are the requirements. This is just a touch base that if you are planning to market your device in Europe and FDA, there is a separate set of the regulations which you have to follow and comply. So with this, I am done of my presentation. Here in our presentations, we have discussed the classification category, the regulatory pathways, which are the key players in the regulatories, what is the procedures to be followed, and what are the submission process, how that the regulatory clearance will be obtained, followed by the clinical investigation and the clinical performance evaluation, friends. So with this, I will end my presentation, and it is open for the discussion.
Well,
Dr.
that was
Aditya.
very insightful as always. But yes, we do have questions which we had taken pre the session just to understand where exactly we get. So one question from Manish Chauhan is, how can I search the possible grants and funding opportunities going forward through a research? So would you like to share something about grant proposals, or where exactly you can get the grants or raise grants from?
Okay. So, Dr. Aditya, first of all, when we talk about the regulatory, the platforms, so there we do not have any direct interactions, and there is no opportunity where we can apply for the grant. So basically the grant opportunity, what as per our experience, what we have seen is the first is there are separate bodies under the government, that is if I can say the BIRAC. BIRAC is the one body which is then under the ICMR there is a lot of opportunity comes for the funding. So these are the regularly they comes up and they release the proposals. In fact, we have many proposals are in current time which has been rolled out, that you have to submit your proposals, whether you are into the innovations, what kind of innovations you are doing, and then applications to be submitted. So the currently what we have seen is two authority. One is the BIRAC. You can search with, there is a biotechnology related one organization is there. Again, it is a government body, and ICMR. They usually fund largely to the such kind of innovations. But as far as we can talk about the central licensing authority, they do not get involved in this.
So basically, I think instead of asking you, I think we are the right person to talk about funding because of the incubation center. So pre-incubation, incubation, and post-incubation, there are different stages at which you have funding. So probably writing us about your ideas and probably looking at your stage of innovations, probably we can let you which is the correct grant for you and which probably has the right funding the agencies can be reached out to. So yeah,
absolutely. I think incubation center is the primary role in the funding. Very true. Yeah.
So the second question is from Aishwarya S, who is asking about, do we have any templates for regulatory or CDSO protocols related to medical devices? Do we have any thought of any kind of a regulatory processes, how easier it could be? So any idea or any, would you like to share anything on that?
Absolutely. This is, so Aishwarya, we have a protocol template. If you go to the medical device rule 2017 document, there they have clearly, given the how the protocol should be. So all the, the stepwise they have given, these are the minimum, the point should be part of the protocol. So it is there.
Yes, and finally, I think we'll go with this question from Shashikala A, who is talking about selection procedures for submitting a proposal. So do you have any recommended way of writing a selection plus proposals or anything like that, is what her question is.
Selection of proposals. So,
for submitting a proposal, do you have any procedures or how you can write or anything like that, is what I think the question is.
So maybe see, submission of proposal, first of all, I think the application, what I understood is while when we do the application to the regulatory authorities, how that our application should be, if I am not wrong. So if that is the case, then our applications, there is as I have mentioned, like whenever we go for any kind of applications, let's say the clinical investigations, if you want to do, or clinical performance evaluation, every application there is a separate, there is a set of the process and the expected way you need to submit your proposal. So there is a research proposal expectation set by the regulatory, and that is defined in fact, the medical device rule under the respective schedule, that how that proposal to be submitted to the regulators. So maybe the device rule document can guide better on this particular aspect. And once you see that there is a list of documents, then we can see that this particular, let's say the protocol, as we discussed, protocol is also part of the one proposal. So then how the protocol should be written? Then we can go further deep down that, okay, protocol should be according to that. Informed consent document, how it should be. Then undertaking of the investigator. So there are, first we need to know the list of the documents should be accompanied for that proposal. And then according to the list of documents, we need to check that how that particular documents can be drafted.
Sure. So this mildly concludes today's session, but one question is there, which I would like to take it in the next session as well. So it's from Padma, who is wanting to know more about the formation and process of regulatory boards and ethical regulatory commissions. So probably we can take it up sometime else, because that's what we'll be covering in the next time also in this session. Right. So yes, as we draw the curtains on this sessions of regulatory pathways with Mr. Sudhir, keep an eye on the space as we intend to conduct more such follow-ups of the sessions on the topic. We will be announcing the date shortly, so you can also ask your friends in the similar spaces to register for this intriguing workshop. If you have any specific questions related to your regulations or any other things, you can always write them to clinical@derbyfoundation.com. We from Derby extend our deepest gratitude to Mr. Sudhir for sharing his ideas and thoughts on how to crack an effective way of doing this pathway of regulation. Thank you all for joining us today. Until we meet next time, let us remain dedicated to our collective pursuit of a healthier and brighter future. Thank you all. Thank you, Mr.
very much. Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay.